Welcome to another episode of Mike's Money Picks. Today on the podcast, we are breaking down this week's event on the LIV Golf Tour. We are breaking down LIV Golf Houston, and this is an event where it might not seem like on paper that there might be a whole lot of edge to people who do their due diligence, but this is a golf course that has a rich history on the PGA Tour and definitely has some features and some characteristics, and there's definitely a lot going on in the world of LIV Golf right now that by doing the research and by digging through the data, we can find some guys that we like this week, and so we're going to take a look at the board. First, we're going to take a look at the golf course itself, the Golf Club of Houston, and then we're going to take a look at the board and see if we can identify some guys that we like in DFS and betting this week for LIV Golf Houston. Now, this is the last LIV Golf event before the U.S. Open, and so next week we're going to have a ton of U.S. Open content. So you subscribe to the channel if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the audio feed if you're listening on audio, and if you're watching on YouTube, please hit the like button. If you're listening on audio, please rate and review. It helps me out more than you could ever know when you guys do those things. I really do appreciate it. And we're closing in on 500 subscribers on YouTube, and I really want to get to that milestone. So help me out and hit that subscribe button. Now, and also really, if you're just here for the LIV Golf content, like there's not a whole lot of people out there doing LIV Golf content, and we're going to be doing LIV throughout the rest of the summer until college football and college basketball come back, because once those come back, that is a lot of our content is going to be focused. So if those two things interest you, go ahead and subscribe as well. We also have a preview of the PGA Tour's Memorial Tournament that is live on our channel as well. Just check through the feed and you can find that episode. We recorded that last night so that we could do LIV Golf Houston tonight, since, you know, this one tees off the day after the Memorial. So everything just works out perfect in terms of time. So without further ado, y'all, let's go ahead and end the introduction there. We went over all the other options for the content that we got here at this channel. So let's go ahead and dive into what you came here for. LIV Golf Houston. Let's break down the course, the Golf Club of. All right. So as we mentioned, LIV Golf Houston is being played at the Golf Club of Houston. If you're watching on YouTube, Pro Visualizer has a great GPS flyover using Google Earth that kind of takes you through the course, and you kind of get a real feel for what this course looks like. But the good news is we don't have to really try too much to get a feel for what this course is going to play like. We have actionable data on this golf course, not something that happens for a lot of venues at LIV Golf. The Golf Club of Houston is a par 72, measures out at about 7,400 yards, and it was designed by Reese Jones, who is the son of kind of the slightly more famous architect, Robert Trent Jones. And so there's not a whole lot of like courses on the PGA Tour or on LIV Golf that have been designed by Reese Jones, but he does have quite the catalog of design golf courses when you look at it in totality. Now, this course, the Golf Club of Houston, is going to feature Bermuda grass greens that run at about an average speed. They're not going to be super slow, super fast by anybody's standards. And what I like about this course, though, y'all, is, like I said earlier, we have actionable data on this golf course. The Golf Club of Houston hosted the PGA Tour's Houston Open all the way from 2003 to 2019. So we've got 16 years of data of guys on the PGA Tour teeing it up here. We can look at who did well here and who didn't do well here to kind of know what type of golf ends up playing well here at this course. And also by using the GPS flyover that we've got, we know a little bit about the characteristics of it. The greens are slightly above average size. There are quite a lot of greenside and fairway bunkers on this course that serve as the course's primary hazard. The course is set in a forest, but really, if I'm being honest, the trees should not be in play a lot this week. This course is quite wide, quite generous off the tee. There's quite wide landing zones. And if you're dealing with tree trouble this week, you're in some serious trouble. So this is a course where guys are going to be able to swing away with driver a lot of times. But really, without there being a whole lot of penalty for missing the fairway or a whole lot to gain by being super long, you know, the course is only $7,400. I would certainly describe this place as a second shot golf course. I think approach play here is going to reign supreme. And after that, you're looking for guys who traditionally putt well on Bermuda grass greens. Now, if we do look back at the history on the PGA Tour and who has won this event. Like I said, this course hosted the event all the way up through 2019. So Lonto Griffin did win the last Houston Open that was hosted here. Carlos Ortiz won the 2020 Houston Open, but that was the first event that was hosted at Memorial Park. Dustin Johnson was runner-up in that event. Two LIV guys, but they were, at the other golf course. They were at Memorial Park, not Golf Club of Houston. 2018, Ian Poulter, notable LIV golfer, did win the event. And then way back in 2014, you had Matt Jones win the event. 2011, Phil Mickelson won. 2010, Anthony Kim won. 2009, Paul Casey won. So, like, the LIV guys have had a lot of success here, especially adding that to the fact that Henrik Stenson had 2 runner-up finishes at this tournament. Also, given the winning scores, I would say that this course is going to tend to play slightly on the easier side. You know, as we kind of look through that flyover with there not being a whole lot of hazards, I think guys are going to have plenty of birdie looks here at this course. It's just a matter of whether or not they're able to knock them down. Now, if you look on Data Golf has a great course history tour that looks at all the courses that have hosted PGA Tour events throughout the years. When you look at the Golf Club of Houston and you look at the guys who play well here, what you see a lot of is great ball strikers and guys who are good at putting at Bermuda greens. So like Emiliano Grillo, Adam Scott, Keith Mitchell, Russell Henley, Sepp Straka. Those are guys that I would all put into that category. Guys who excel at Bermuda greens, guys who are great ball strikers. They're not necessarily long off the tee, but they're guys who can spike on approach, spike putting, and are able to perform well in that regard. Now, in terms of the LIV guys who play well here, John Rahm only played this tournament once, but had a T10. Abraham Ancer only played this event once and had a T8. You already mentioned Henrik Stenson. He had 2 runners up, but also a T6 finish back in 2018. So, you know, a lot of events here for Henrik Stenson. Ian Poulter has the win, but hasn't really been all that great outside of it. Phil Mickelson showed up here pretty much every year that it hosted, so he's probably got more, total tournament plays here than anybody else. He's played 42 rounds here at this tournament, which is quite a lot. Anthony Kim does have the win, but, you know, with his professional career being what it is, he doesn't really have any recent actionable data to go off of. Pat Perez also played here quite a bit, but he really didn't play here after 2015. He had a T11 in that 2015 season. So we've got a lot of LIV guys that have a lot of actionable data here at this course. And so now, knowing what we know about the course, let's go ahead and take a look at the board and see if we can identify where we want to go with our DraftKings lineups and our betting cards here. All right, so when you take a look at the betting board as well as the prices on DraftKings, the number 1 golfer in both locations is John Rahm. And I got to say, I'm kind of feeling a fade of John Rahm this week. So, like, first off, he hasn't really put it all together on LIV yet this season. He does not have a finish on a LIV golf event that is outside of the top 10, but he is also yet to win one. And at this price tag, especially with all that's around him, you really need him to win or maybe even come runner up with like a bargain player winning if he's going to pay off his price tag. With LIV being only 3 rounds, one thing I'm noticing is, like, the more I play DFS for LIV golf is that there's less of ability, or there's less separation between like a winner and like a 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th place, because they only play 54 holes, right? There's less opportunities to separate themselves. So with that, you know, in mind, like John Rahm being the guy that's highest in salary, he really needs to separate himself from the rest of the pack if he wants to, show up as a good value. So, I'm kind of fading him for that reason, but also I think just anecdotally, I just don't think that John Rahm's in a great spot right now, right? Like, he was a massive disappointment with a 45th place finish at the Masters, massive disappointment with a missed cut at the PGA. And he has really just been stumbling over himself in interviews, like not looking like he's having a good time on the golf course. I don't think John Rahm is just in the best spot right now mentally. And I really think that all that just adds up for me to fade John Rahm. Now, watch me say all that, and he ends up winning by 7 strokes because he does have that ability. But I just think that this is not exactly the spot for him. I want to see him do it somewhere or do it in a major before I'm willing to put him back into my DFS lineups and onto my betting cards. Also, when you think about John Rahm's skill set, he is an elite long iron player. This course, with its length being only 7,400 yards, is not going to be a place where you're going to really have a lot of long iron shots. So I really think that one of his best skill sets is going to be taken away from him here this week. And so I just don't think that he's going to have the ability to separate in the way that he needs to separate to pay off that price tag. Now, in DFS, what I think a lot of people are going to do is they're going to start off their lineups with Bryson DeChambeau. And for good reason. Bryson DeChambeau has been the best LIV player through 2 majors so far this year. And if you had told me back in January that there was going to be a LIV player that was the top LIV guy in both majors back-to-back, the Masters and the PGA, I would have thought that it was Brooks. I would have thought that it was Rahm. I would not have thought that it was going to be Bryson. Bryson historically has not had a good history at Augusta. His PGA Championship and U.S. Open history has some peaks and valleys. So I definitely would not have but he's looked the best at the majors out of all the LIV guys. And so given that most people who play DFS are just watching those events, they're not able to watch the LIV events, especially the ones that occur overseas. Side note, LIV is occurring in America this week, so we can actually watch it live on TV as opposed to on tape delay. So with the fact that people have watched Bryson do it, like I think that a lot of people are going to play him in DFS, and it makes a lot of sense, right? Bryson's got a game that is really transferable to any course because he is so good with the driver, and this is going to be a driver heavy layout that he's going to give himself an advantage with his distance and with his power off the tee. And he's been great on those two majors so far, and he's always been an above average putter, especially on Bermuda grass. So I really think that Bryson is the guy that everything lines up for this week. The one concern would be that he hasn't historically had a great track record of playing well at the LIV events that are right before a major. You know, he was T27 in Singapore, he was T7 in Miami. So maybe, just maybe, knowing that there's going to be a ton of ownership on Bryson, I think you could make a good argument for fading Bryson. Joaquin Niemann is also an interest, because he's arguably, like, if you had to give out an MVP award this year, he would be it, right? He has 2 wins. He has a myriad of other top 10 finishes. He's been just okay at the majors, but like on LIV Golf's LIV events, he's been outstanding. Now, what's also interesting with Niemann is that he did not advance to the U.S. Open. He did not qualify on Monday. And so what's interesting about that is here's a guy who has been very vocal about that he belongs in the majors, that LIV should get a spot in the majors, and that he's earned a spot in those majors. And so Niemann is a guy that he is the type that he is going to say it, and then he's going to go out and try to prove it. So I think that Niemann's got a little bit of added mental motivation this week. I don't necessarily think that this is the best golf course for him. I don't think it's the worst golf course for him, but I do think that if anybody is going to be motivated to play well on LIV this week, it's going to be Joaquin Niemann, and he wants to show the world that he should be in that U.S. Open next week. Speaking of the U.S. Open next week, the last golfer in the $10,000 range on DraftKings is Brooks Koepka. And Brooks Koepka, anecdotally, has won 2 of the last LIV events the week before a major. He won last year at LIV Orlando before the Masters. He won this year at LIV Singapore before the PGA. And really, people are going to criticize him over his PGA Championship performance, which was a T26. But really, when you look at it, he had the exact same scores as Bryson DeChambeau for 3 of the rounds. The only difference is Brooks had a 74 for his 4th round, and Bryson had a 64. So we're really going to criticize Brooks and hold it against him for having 1 bad round at the PGA Championship when everybody else was making birdies. I'm not necessarily going to do that. I think this is a great spot for Brooks. He loves to play the week before major. He loves to get tuned up. He loves to compete the week before major. And so kind of anecdotally, I think that Brooks makes for very solid play. And in terms of his actual golf game translating this golf course, look, I don't think there's a golf course in the world that is bad for Brooks Koepka. Brooks Koepka is a great manager of the golf course. He's very smart about the shots that he plays. It's why he wins so many major championships, especially on difficult golf courses. And he also has a great off the tee game, approach game, and he can be hot and cold with the around the green and with the putter. So if you get the hot Brooks Koepka with the around the green play and the putter, he absolutely has the upside to win this event. Tyrrell Hatton and Cam Smith are 2 interesting ones, if I must say so. So Hatton on LIV has been pretty good. His last 3 LIV events, he's been 4th, 14th, and 5th. That's pretty darn solid. His finishes at the majors have been good and not so good. He was 9th at the Masters, was 63rd at Valhalla. So I don't really know what to make of Tyrrell, but historically, he's a great Bermuda grass putter. A lot of his wins on the PGA Tour have come at Bermuda grass golf courses. He is a great iron player. He's not super long off the tee, which isn't going to punish him here this week. So I really do think that this golf course sets up pretty well for Tyrrell Hatton. And so I think that at $9,900, if you're looking to fade the top of the board, I think there's a pretty good argument to be made to go ahead and play Tyrrell Hatton right there. I also think that if you're looking to play 2 of the guys at the top of the board, I think this would be a week where you could play 2 of the top 5 guys here at this tournament. I generally don't advocate for a studs and duds approach on LIV because the duds tend to be really, really bad. But I think there's a lot of guys in the 6 and 7K range this week who have a lot of history at this golf course and could absolutely spike with a top 50 finish and go 2 from the top of the board. I could see Hatton being a second man in as that type of lineup. Now, Cam Smith is an interesting one as well because kind of like with Tyrrell Hatton, he's not super long off the tee. He's not great with the driver either. He's at his best at courses where he can have a lot of misses with the driver. But he can absolutely spike on approach. He can absolutely spike with the putter. So with this being a second shot golf course, if there's going to be anywhere for Cam Smith, I think that this is a pretty good spot for him. And so he is probably going to be one of my more favored plays this week. And anecdotally, for whatever reason, Aussies seem to play well in the state of Texas. I don't know why. It just is what it is. So Cam Smith is certainly a guy who's going to be making my DraftKings lineups this week. Louis Oosthuizen would probably be second in terms of LIV's MVP in this short season that LIV has had. He's had 2 wins on the DP World Tour before coming over to start LIV season, and he's had 2 runner-up finishes along with another 7th and another 8th place finish. He's been really good on LIV, and he's traditionally, we don't really have great stats for LIV, but Louis is traditionally a good approach player. He traditionally is going to keep it in play off the tee. And so he's another guy that I could see a really good argument for, and I could definitely see going a little balanced with starting your build with 2 of the 3 between Hatton, Smith, and Oosthuizen. Taylor Gooch is probably going to be a little bit of a fade for me, if I'm being honest. We like Taylor Gooch at shorter golf courses, and this is not exactly a short track. And also, I think he's the opposite of Joaquin Niemann, where he is running his mouth to the media and not doing anything to back it up. He really has a sense of entitlement, in my opinion, when he goes out and talks to the media, and he has not done anything to back it up. He did not even attempt to qual open. And he just, I don't know, he doesn't really seem all that motivated to me right now. And the finishes on LIV have been a little hot and cold. I don't think this course is a great fit for him. So Taylor Gooch is probably going to be a fade in my book. And Dustin Johnson is also going to be a fade in my book. I just think that he's kind of cooked. Like, if I'm being honest, I question his motivation week in, week out, if he's going to show up and be locked in, ready to play. And that's not something that you want in DFS. You want a guy who's going to go out there and give it their all and fight for your money. So Dustin Johnson, big cross off for me. A guy that I really like, though, is Dean Burmeister. So he will play at the U.S. Open next week. He did qualify on Monday, and so he's another one of these guys that has added motivation in order to play well this week to get ready for a major. And at the last major, he was T12 at the PGA. His last 5 finishes on LIV, he has been no worse than 15th, including a win at LIV Golf Miami, which is another course that featured Bermuda grass greens. So Dean Burmeister, I think everything's lining up for him this week. He's kind of like a Bryson DeChambeau light version. He is an elite driver of the golf ball, but he can really spike on approach, and he has proven to be a pretty good Bermuda putter in his career. So Dean Burmeister is a guy that I like a lot this week. All right, so let's go ahead and take a quick breather, and then we're going to look at the bottom half of the board as opposed to the top half. Now, I did want to mention, if you are somebody who plays DFS, you can get access to my core plays for every LIV event as well as every PGA Tour event by subscribing to my Patreon, patreon.com/MikesMoneyPicks. With every single event, PGA Tour, LIV, everything, even the alternate events, I will post my core plays on FanDuel and DraftKings, as well as a quick write-up on my thoughts on the course, as well why each guy ends up making the course. So if you would like access to that, go ahead and subscribe to the Patreon, patreon.com/MikesMoneyPicks. You will also get all of the tools that we are going to offer for NFL best ball leagues, as well as when college football and NFL comes back, we will have our weekly cores on there as well. So if you are interested in any of that, patreon.com/MikesMoneyPicks is where you go. A lot of the data that we have here on all the golf shows as well as all the football shows is not free. And so the Patreon is how you can financially support that and help me get the good data to bring to you guys, to bring you guys productive show. Let's go and carry on where we left off. So Abraham Answer is 9,100, and he's been pretty good on LIV. He won at LIV Hong Kong, has not finished outside the top 10 since that, but I think he's kind of a guy with limited upside. He is not a long hitter off the tee, and this course is not super long, but I don't know. He hasn't shown to me any ability on LIV to contend at anything outside of the shortest golf courses. He also seems like a guy whose ceiling is like 6th place. So I'm kind of out on him in DFS, but I think that if you were looking to make a top 10 bet, I think he's a pretty solid. Now, in the 8K range, one guy that I like a lot is Thomas Pieters. So Thomas Pieters really was just kind of stuck in neutral last year on LIV. And really at the start of this year, he was as well. But you kind of really see a turn at Miami, where he finished 9th place, followed by Adelaide, 14th place, Singapore, 5th place. Played in his home event in Belgium on the DP World Tour a few weeks ago and finished in runner-up. So Thomas Pieters has really turned it around. I think that he's absolutely got the talent to win an event on LIV. And I think that the play is trending in the right direction with the DP World Tour, then you obviously got some game in. So I think Thomas Pieters is probably my favorite play in the 8K range. What I hope a lot of people are going to do is go to look up, the Houston Open results and see that Carlos Ortiz won one and think that he won one at this golf course. He has not. I don't think Carlos Ortiz is a bad play, but I would personally rather try to find $100 to get out to Thomas Pieters. Paul Casey also has won at this golf course, and I think that he's been kind of a underachiever on LIV in his few years on the tour as well. But you know that the talent's there. You know that he's one of the best putters of the golf ball in the world. And so Paul Casey is a guy that could absolutely make some of my lineups this week because I do think he has that upside. Richard Bland is an interesting one because he played in the PGA or the Senior PGA Championship like the week after he turned 50 and won it, which all the LIV guys on Twitter were like, yeah, like LIV guys are doing it all over the world. And it's like, yeah, but like he's beaten a bunch of old men and he's the youngest of all the old men. I think of him like the Abraham. I think that he's playing good golf. I think that he's not a terrible fit for the course, but I think his upside is capped. I would be shocked to see him come in the top 5, but I think he's a pretty solid top 20 bet if I'm being honest. Now the 7K range, there's 2 names here that stand out to me because if I'm being honest, on LIV, in the lower ranges in DraftKings, you have the ability to either pay for talent or look for guys who might have some course history and whatnot. And I think this week presents a great dichotomy of that. Mito Pereira is like super young, super talented, and he really looked like he had just been mailing it in this LIV season. He had to finish inside the top 30 until Adelaide became an 8+. Mito Pereira absolutely has the talent to win on LIV. It's just whether or not he will actually show up and do it. The 47th at Singapore was certainly not encouraging, but if you look at it, it was really just one bad round, and he wasn't bad outside of that. I think with it being in an easier golf course, a golf course that Mito should be a little more comfortable with, I think that this is not a bad spot for Mito, and he's certainly the most talented of the guys in this range. Speaking of talent, I think David Puig is really talented. He is a great driver of the golf ball. He missed the cut at the PGA this year, but he did qualify for the U.S. Open in the last Monday qualifying on Monday. So I really do think he's going to have added motivation to play well this week. He played pretty well in the U.S. Open last year, so he's going to want to get right and play well this week so that way he can next week. Much like Mito, I don't think that his finishes on LIV line up with where I perceive his talent level to be. He has 2 15th place finishes this year on LIV, but other than that, nothing inside the top 25. So I think that Mito and Puig are risk high reward guys that have the talent to get the job done. It's just a matter of whether or not they will. If you're looking for guys in this range, they're great course fits. I kind of like Sebastian Munoz at this course. I kind of like Kokrak at this course as well. These are 2 guys who have had success in this region of the country. Kokrak having a lot of success in Texas. Munoz kind of having success in the Southeast and kind of in that little vicinity that I think you could still call Houston the Southeast very, very minimally. So, I think the both of them make for solid plays. They're both good drivers of the golf ball who can spike on approach, which is what you're going to need to do this week. Now, when you get down to the bargains this week, Caleb Surratt is another one that I think is supremely talented, is going to be a name in the future. Just needs to put it all together for 1 week on LIV, and he could absolutely piece together a win. But you got a lot of guys in this bargain range that have great history at this course. Matt Jones is a winner at this event on the PGA Tour. Henrik Stenson, twice a runner-up at this event on the PGA Tour. Ian Poulter, winner at this event on the PGA Tour. Matt Jones, winner at this event on the PGA Tour. I need to find where he's priced at. Hold on. I think I already mentioned him. Yeah, I already mentioned him. Matt Jones is 7,000. He is a winner at this event on the PGA Tour. I don't know why I wrote him twice. So anyway, you've got a lot of guys in this range who have great history at this course, right? Those would be guys that I would prioritize. I also think that Charles Schwartzel is an interesting one because of the ceiling that he has shown this year. He was runner-up at the Alfred Dunhill on the DP World Tour, and then he was runner-up at LIV Jeddah and placed 3rd at LIV Adelaide. So, this is the guy down here in this range that he spikes. He has the ability to pop and actually show up with a good performance. And so I think he makes for an interesting GPP play on DraftKings because I do think that he has the upside to come in the top 10 at this event. But if I'm being honest, I think that my favorite play in this range, I'm going to stick to the guys who know this course, Matt Jones, Ian Poulter. Those are probably going to be my 2 guys this week. If you're looking to play anybody else this week, if there was ever a week to play Phil, play him at a golf course that he clearly has a ton of experience at and has a win at. He missed the cut at the PGA Championship, but just watching a lot of his round, it didn't look that bad. It didn't look like he was any out of sorts or anything. Just had a few bad breaks, and I think this is not a bad setup for Phil. Graham McDowell is also a guy like Schwartzel that pops. He has 2 top 10 finishes on LIV this season, which is not something you can say about a lot of the other guys down here in this range. Now, if we're looking for a bet this week, I'm going to go through quick bets because, everything's kind of been DraftKings focused. So if I were to bet this week, I'm probably not going to fire a lot of bets, probably not outright winners. I might fire some top 10s, top 20 parlays. But in terms of an outright winner this week, I think that there is a really good number on Brooks Koepka, 16-1, given that he generally spikes the week before a major at the same price as a lot of other guys that I think he's just better at golf than. And so I think Brooks Koepka would be my guy at the top of the board at plus 1,600. I think if you're looking down a little bit further, I really like Thomas Pieters at 50-1. Like I said, I really believe in his talent. I really believe the game is trending in the right direction. He would probably be my guy at 50-1, and I don't think I would bet anybody past that. Now, in terms of the team this week, can I find that on DraftKings? Hold on. DraftKings Sportsbook, I don't know if they actually have the LIV team betting. So anyway, if I were to bet on a team this week, I really think that this would probably be best set up for John Rahm's team, Legion 13. Rahm, Hatton, and Surratt, I think, are all pretty good course fits. I think Surratt is really talented. They would just need Kieran Vincent to kind of, just carry his weight. But I really think that top 3 is going to give them a pretty good chance. Even though I don't think that this is the best spot for Rahm, I do think that it is a pretty good spot for Hatton. And I think that a lot of the other teams have somebody who is definitely going to end up bringing them down this week. And I don't see them having a clear weak spot as long as Kieran Vincent doesn't finish like dead last. All right, so that does it for the LIV Golf Houston 2024 preview. If you like what you saw on YouTube, please hit the like button. Please subscribe to the channel. Please come back with us for the rest of the summer as we continue to preview LIV Golf and also our weekly PGA Tour content as well, in addition to what is going to be our NFL content, best ball content, college football content, college basketball content, all coming your way. So if you subscribe, you can be here for all that. But if you just want to stick to LIV golf content, we're going to be covering it for the rest of the summer. So make sure you come on back. All right. So other than that, y'all, that is going to do it for this episode. Hopefully, we're to give you guys plenty of good information so that way you guys can pick some winners for some DraftKings lineups and betting cards here this week at LIV Golf Houston. Thank you guys for watching and listening to this point. Best of luck to you this week, and I will see you next time.